Welcome to Why It's Great. This is the series where I pay my respect to some of the movies that I feel get too much undeserved hate, and highlight all the aspects of these films that in my opinion are great. Today we will be tackling the most controversial film of all time, Star Wars The Last Jedi. But please note that this is not a critical analysis of The Last Jedi. I won't be talking about any of the negatives of this film, because it's already been done way too much. And as you all know, here on the TurfNation channel, we're all about positivity. This is the format that I will be using throughout this series to raise awareness to some of the less appreciated films in cinema, and hopefully help some people understand why it's okay to defend the movies that you love, even if other people don't agree with you. We're all different, we all like different things, and any movie can be filled with positives if you're just willing to look for them. Just like how you can always find negatives if you're looking for them. I personally like to look for the good things because it just makes life happier. Also, I won't be using normal methods of reviewing film today. I'm gonna be trying something new. I actually got this idea from another YouTuber called Chris Ranks, who made some really good videos ranking the Game of Thrones seasons, but he hasn't uploaded in over a year, so I will try to continue his legacy. Essentially, I'll be pointing out standout moments of the film, which are then either categorized as bronze, silver, or gold moments. A bronze moment is not bad at all. It's actually pretty great. I mean, getting a bronze medal in the 100-meter dash at the Olympics is not as good as silver and gold, but it's still a great achievement. A bronze moment is worthy to be talked about. It's a great little piece of filmmaking that really helps make the story special. A silver moment is an amazing moment, something that the filmmakers should be proud of. They're fantastic pieces of storytelling that help make the film great. Then we have gold moments, which are extremely rare. They're essentially perfect moments, and I know true perfection is impossible to achieve in anything, but I do believe perfect moments do exist, where yes, there may be flaws, but it's so amazing that you just don't really care. These are the moments that just can't be written. There needs to be something truly special about them, and they need to create emotions and reactions that will never be forgotten. If you successfully manage to create a gold moment, then you know you've done something truly special. So yes, this is how I will be reviewing the positives of this film. I hope I made that clear enough. Anyways, let's just get right into the video. The movie starts how a Star Wars film should. Straight into the action, no bullshit. This whole first action sequence is a good start to an epic adventure, and I'd overall classify it as a bronze standout moment. Let me break it down. First of all, I actually like Poe stalling. A lot of people will talk about the humor in this scene, but I'm just way too infatuated with Oscar Isaac. He kills it in this movie. He seems like he's just having a lot of fun. Honestly, the acting in this movie is arguably the best in the entire series, but we'll get to that later. Then we get the first little piece of character work, as Poe ignores direct orders from Leia to retreat, and instead decides to try and take down the dreadnought, which they do succeed in, but at what cost? Leia's reaction to the countless lives lost really kickstarts the whole conflict between Poe, Leia, and Holdo that makes up for a third of the movie. It's a difficult moral question that even we as the audience are a part of. And by the way, this film is pretty good at providing us with moral questions. I love it. This next one isn't really a standout moment or even a positive, more of a defense. But people like to criticize the inconvenience of the bombers, saying that they're unnecessarily slow. But I don't really think that argument is valid. There's a reason they're slow. It's because they're big and have a shit ton of bombs in them, which just slows them down a lot. And if you want to compare them to the regular bomber jets we see in Star Wars movies, then that doesn't work either. Yes, those are faster, but they don't have the capacity to hold enough bombs to take down a fucking dreadnought. The bombers in The Last Jedi aren't anything to praise, because they're just bombers. There's nothing to complain about either. It's just a part of the movie that makes complete sense. And then bam! We have our first silver moment. Paige's sacrifice is very underrated, and isn't talked about nearly as much as it should be. This death scene does something not many other of the films in the franchise do, and that's to humanize the casualties in battle. In Star Wars movies, a lot of people die, but the deaths are rarely given any development unless it's an important character to the story. For example, when Alderaan blew up, millions and millions of people died, and we don't care. In The Force Awakens, when the Republic is destroyed, yes, we see a glimpse of people, which still does give the event more emotional impact than Alderaan, but it's still millions of people dying that we don't care about. It's just normal for soldiers to be shot down like flies in these movies. They aren't giving any human qualities, so sacrifice kinda becomes meaningless, and that's why I love this moment so much. It shows us what this battle is all about, what the stakes truly are. This war war is about freedom and overcoming oppression, and the people who are fighting this evil will sacrifice everything to give the galaxy a little hope. Watching this young woman shed a tear as she watches the dreadnought blowing up moments from blowing up herself is beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. This is what this victory cost. Actual people gave up their lives for this purpose, not just some expendable soldiers, real people. And that's meaningful. I praise this movie so much for bringing real emotion into it, because it helps the viewer resonate more with the events that happen. Their victories become our victories. And yes, there are still a lot of expendable soldiers dying in this film that we never hear anything about, and that's fine, because we got this moment. It just gives the word hope a completely new meaning. After the initial battle sequence, the music changes, signaling what we've waited 2 years for. Luke fucking Skywalker. And Luke throwing away the lightsaber is for sure a standout moment. I was almost inclined to give this moment a silver, just for the uproar it created, but I had to control myself. However, I do love this movie for taking risks, and this is the first one in the film, and it works well. No one was expecting Luke to chuck the lightsaber into oblivion before watching. And don't even try to say that you did. You're lying. The "where is Han" moment is great because it shows just how disconnected Luke is from the Force. It shows how isolated he has made himself because he would have felt Han dying if he was still in tune with the Force. And also the cut to Kylo is brilliant. Cuts are the simplest and often the most effective method of storytelling in film, because a rookie writer would have had Rey telling Luke that Han is dead. But Rian Johnson knows that we know that Han is dead, and we know who did it. So instead of telling us, he continues the plot without disrupting the pacing. It's honestly just a nice little filmmaking technique, and Rian Johnson has a lot of these small details in his films that if you notice them, you just end up appreciating how good of a director he is. Anyways, the Snoke and Kylo scene is also pretty fun. We see Snoke as the powerful, manipulating and controlling person he is, and we begin to notice the conflict within Kylo, and a conflicted Skywalker is always fun to watch. Then Kylo breaks his helmet. Under that mask, he is Kylo Ren. He is the badass lightsaber-wielding, sexy Darth Vader-looking motherfucker that people are scared of. But without it, he's Ben Solo, a conflicted man who doesn't know what's right or wrong yet. He knows that he can't keep hiding behind that mask. He knows that he's starting to realize that he has to find these answers as Ben Solo and not Kylo Ren. Or he's just being a child and raging and there's nothing deep to it. Either way, it's cool. Then we have the Hermit Luke montage, which is a great way of showing us the person Luke has become and the lifestyle he's chosen for himself. It's so raw and almost pathetic. It's a wonderful characterization because it tells us that this isolation Luke has chosen for himself is meant as a punishment. Because no matter how lowly Rey may think of him during the scene, it doesn't compare at all to how lowly he thinks of himself. It's a lifestyle that's so un-Jedi-like, which fits quite well because he really does believe the Jedi should end. He believes that he deserves this. Then we have Luke and Rey's conversation inside the tree. And this is where we really start to see the depth of Mark Hamill's performance. The way he can give the word "you" multiple different meanings by just adding emphasis is such a strong tool. And even alongside Hamill's performance, which is the best in the film and arguably the entire franchise, Daisy Ridley keeps up with him, and it's just an intriguing moment. Then Poe gets fucking slapped, and of course gets demoted, which makes a lot of sense. Yes, they took down a dreadnought, and yes, it was Poe who made sure it happened, but again, at what cost? It doesn't matter if what he did was technically a good thing, because it's sometimes impossible to define what a good thing is. They lost a lot of lives, a lot of ships, a lot of resources, and what has changed? They took down a dreadnought, but the First Order still has a massive fleet, easily capable of destroying the Resistance fleet. Plus, Snoke has a massive Godzilla-like ship. The main difference is that now most of the Resistance ships have been destroyed. Poe has likely grown up on the heroic stories of Luke and Han and how their hope and courage saved the galaxy. But real life and stories aren't always the same thing. Poe's arc in this film is about him becoming a true leader. He needs to learn the consequences of his actions. Leia demoting him makes perfect sense. He ignored a direct order, which led to a lot of death. This is how army ranks work, people. Also, some people like to question why the bombers are already on the way if it wasn't the plan, but I've always just imagined that they were on standby. Poe stalling alone might not have been enough, so they had the bombers ready to move in just in case they needed more time. But since they managed to clear out the base, there was no need for this suicide mission to proceed, and so Poe Poe was ordered to retreat. Makes perfect sense to me. Then we have Kylo Ren not killing Leia. I was debating whether or not this was a silver moment, but I don't think it quite makes the cut. It's still a standout bronze moment though. It shows the conflict inside Kylo, and it beautifully contrasts him killing Han in the previous one, because we've now seen both sides of him. The light and the dark. This moment brings depth to his character, and it opens up the story quite well. Then we have Leia using the Force. It's just a fun nod to the originals. We've known for a long time that Leia probably was Force sensitive, and now we saw it in action. There's nothing stupid about an old lady surviving in space for a couple seconds and force pulling herself towards a massive object. Unless you think all Star Wars is stupid, which you don't, right? Yeah, I like this moment. Then Luke slides his way onto the Falcon, and then we finally see some of that old Luke that we know and love when he sees R2. This scene is just really wholesome, with Luke laughing and the Force theme playing in the background as R2 shows him a Leia clip. Showing us these tiny glimpses of Luke's human sides make the final payoff at the end so much more meaningful than if he'd just been depressed the whole time. Showing him as conflicted adds more value to his return. I must say, I honestly like Finn and Rose's first encounter. John Boyega is very charismatic in this scene, and seeing Rose grieving her dead sister adds even more meaning to the great sacrifice in the beginning of the film. Their arc honestly starts off decently. Now, the Force connection between Rey and Kylo is a wonderful idea, because it allows for our two main characters to interact quite a lot without the complications that would arise if they actually met in person. All of their conversations are standout moments for me. These are two young and confused people who still don't know their place in the world, and each of them knowing that the other is in the same position as themselves creates this wonderful little bond. I also love how all the background sound is removed. It makes their encounters a lot more personal and intense. Then we have the first lesson, which provides us with a beautiful explanation of the Force, which is really satisfying after the midichlorians of the prequels. And we of course have Rey not resisting the darkness, which foreshadows her moral gray version of the Jedi. The second lesson is also really good. It has great acting and just more interactions between Luke and Rey. The lessons are short, entertaining, and effective. To be completely honest, the whole Canto Bight storyline doesn't bother me much. It's just Star Wars fun, and yes, even if it isn't great, it doesn't ruin the movie. It's a nice little sequence that has good themes about war and slavery, and also DJ is pretty cool. So yeah, Canto Bight honestly isn't even that bad. It does break the pacing a little bit, but it's not horrible. Then we have Ben fucking Swallow, instant platinum! Legendary meme. The Rey mirror scene is pretty good. It shows Rey's temptation and how her strongest motivation is still finding out where her place in the world is. She's still living in the past, controlled by what the world wants her to be, instead of living in the moment and being who she is. We also get some awesome foreshadowing to her parents being no one. She searched for answers and it's just her, alone. There is no one there to make her story special, no lineage to make her special. She has to find that purpose inside herself, and I really fucking dig these ideas. They're mature. Then we have Rey versus Luke. Silver moment for me. We see Luke as the fucking badass he is. He easily beats Rey. A lot of people think he loses, but he doesn't. He toys with her and disarms her with no real difficulty. Only when she force grabs the goddamn lightsaber does he back off. He really does show her who's boss in this fight. And then as part of the scene, we find out the truth about what really happened that night. When we heard Luke's original story and then Kylo's story, we could tell that there were some details missing from both. And now we know what happened. Luke had a terrible fleeting thought that anyone would have had in his position if they thought that they were looking down on the next Darth Vader, murderer of millions. For a split second, he thought about ending it all, which would have saved so many lives, but he realized instantly that what he was thinking was wrong. But it was too late. His tiny lapse in judgment had massive consequences. He failed, and naturally he feels great shame, and him thinking the only option left is for the Jedi to end is justifiable. He was supposed to be the best of the Jedi, the creator of a new Jedi Order that would finally make up for the previous mistakes caused by the Jedi and create balance, but he ended up failing just like the rest of them. It's obviously not the right choice for him to give up, and Rian Johnson isn't saying that it is. Luke's whole character arc in this film is about him learning that failure is a natural part of life. The thing that matters is how you respond to that failure. The Jedi during the Clone Wars failed, and they gave up and left their problems for someone else to fix. Luke learns in this film the value of his legendary status, the impact that he has as a symbol of hope. Luke pulls himself out of the darkest corners of despair and saves the fucking galaxy. again. It's such a well-crafted and beautiful character arc, and the fact that people can't truly see and accept this single lapse in Luke's judgment is really sad to me, because Luke's character in this film is so refined, complex, and engaging, and I wish more people would have had the pleasure of watching it unfold as I did. Luke isn't perfect, and he never was. Luke has been tempted to the dark side many times. He once almost gave into temptation, just like we all have. Luke is human, and that's what made him so relatable to us, and why he is our hero. If Luke had just been a perfect Jedi Master in this film, it would have been very boring. I adore Rian Johnson for taking the risk to tell the story that he wanted to tell. This whole scene is an easy silver moment for me. And then from one great scene to an even greater scene. Luke and Yoda together. Instant silver moment, holy fuck. Rarely have I ever felt so much happiness while watching a film in the cinema than I did watching this scene. It's just such a satisfying payoff for having been a Star Wars fan my whole life. So naturally this moment wouldn't have had the same effect on the casual movie fan as it does on a Star Wars fan, but it's still a really good scene. Yoda and Luke's characters just bounce off each other really well, and the way Luke gets lectured by his old master is so satisfying to watch. The line, "the greatest teacher failure is such a powerful message to send to people, because no matter how many times you fall down, no matter how many times you get dirt thrown in your face, if you can get up after all the pain, after all the setbacks, after failure, then you never truly lose. That's how winners are made." Fuck me, I love this moment. This is what Star Wars is all about. I was really considering making this a gold moment, but I don't think it's quite there. But it's also too good to be a silver moment. Screw it. Dirty gold. With a little more refinement, it would have been perfect. Then we have Finn and DJ talking on the ship. It's just an interesting conversation between two quite charismatic characters, and it really makes you stop for a second and think a little about the nature of war. War is profitable. Some people don't care about the outcome. They make their living from the chaos and destruction. Interesting ideas. Oh god. Kylo looking down at Rey inside the pod is just so awkward, and I would cringe so hard if I was Rey. It's such a moment. I don't know why I'm talking about this. It just makes me cringe. Then we have DJ giving Rose back her medallion. You see, he's not a douche. He's just an opportunist. It's not that he's mean to other people. He just values his own life more than others. People are like that. It's a nice moment. Now, the entire throne room scene is a standout moment. The first part of it is nothing special, but it's great setup for when things get crazy. Daisy's acting is phenomenal. Andy Serkis kills it. And Adam Driver is, well, Adam Driver. They all clash off each other wonderfully. But then Snoke dies and Rey catches a lightsaber, and this is where shit gets real. Snoke dying. Silver moment for sure. The fight with the Praetorian guards is fun and entertaining. The revelation of who Rey's parents are, holy fuck, this is also a silver moment. I love that Rey is a nobody. It's such a powerful message because the hero of this trilogy isn't some cracked kid who comes from a powerful family. It's not some kid who has the right parents. It's a goddamn junk trader who comes from nothing. This is the kind of message that will tell kids that they can become a Jedi too, even if they aren't a Skywalker. It's such a beautiful theme, and even then, it's just a good character moment for Rey, because it's the answer she always knew but was too afraid to hear. Her accepting that she has no written place in the story pushes her character arc forward. It's the hardest possible answer for her to hear because she just wants her role in the world to be defined by someone else, but it just isn't. She has to make something out of her life by herself. Such a powerful moment. Easy silver for me. Whew. This whole scene is just brilliant. After Snoke dies, this film just steps up into another level. All the build-up from earlier is starting to pay off. And then the light speed ramming scene? Another easy silver moment. My mouth dropped in the cinema. The lack of sound, the cinematography, the effects, just brilliant. And who cares if this is the first time it's happened? Who the fuck cares? It's a badass moment that deserves recognition. And also, speaking of the lightspeed ramming, I honestly don't know why people hate on Holdo so much. You can see from most of her scenes that she truly cares about the Resistance. Everything she tells Poe here is true. He's impulsive, he's dangerous, and his kind is just not what they need at the moment. And people criticize her for not trusting Poe, but literally the last thing that happened before she was put in power was Poe being demoted. Do you know what getting demoted means in the military? He's not a commander anymore, he's just a captain. So Holdo is not obligated to include Poe in the plan. It makes complete sense. He needs to trust in the leadership. And her being against Poe's plan makes complete sense too, because it's an insanely risky plan. And it literally fails. Yes, back in the originals, a once-in-a-lifetime chance helped save the galaxy, but you just can't put trust in that kind of luck unless you have no other alternative, which Holdo does. And again, the plan failed. Finn and Rose finding DJ even jeopardized Holdo's plan. If it wasn't for Poe being so quick to assume that he knew best, Holdo's plan would have succeeded with a lot less casualties. Yes, she could have told Poe the plan to prevent a mutiny, since she could see him getting flustered. That was a flaw. A failure. She's not perfect in this scenario either, but she gave her fucking life for the Resistance, and people are questioning her loyalty. Both Poe and Holdo wanted the best for the Resistance, but they also each thought that they knew best. It's honestly a dynamic that I really enjoy. There's nothing wrong with it. However, then we have a more calm moment with the Falcon joining the fight. Just seeing it in action again is always a treat. And then we have another silver moment. Luke and Leia's reunion is one of the greatest presents we could have received. Their legacies alone carry the scene. It doesn't even matter how good the writing is or what they actually say. Just them being together on screen again was enough to make a lot of people, including myself, very emotional. Also, the fact that Luke and Han didn't get to meet on screen again, and of course Carrie Fisher's death, gave this scene a much bigger impact. Probably the most obvious silver moment in this film. And then, of course, we have our first gold moment. Luke walking out and facing down the First Order is the most excited I've ever been in a cinema. This moment had the same effect on me that the Avengers Assemble scene in Endgame did. For my whole life, I had waited for the day that I'd finally get to see Luke Skywalker being a hero again, and I fucking got it. Him walking out with that building music and everyone's shocked faces is the perfect payoff for all the wonderfully nuanced setup we'd received throughout this film. Seeing all of Luke's lows, seeing his struggle with who he is and what he stands for, seeing him try to deal with the shame of what he did, and then this moment, he has finally realized that it doesn't matter what he thinks of himself, it doesn't matter how badly he failed. The galaxy needs him, his sister needs him, Hope needs him, and he accepted his failure and decided to do something about it. Luke using a force projection is also so fitting to his character arc in this film, because if he had been there in person, what would he have realistically been able to do? He couldn't have taken out the entire First Order by himself, but that wasn't his purpose. He stalled long enough for the Resistance to get away. He kept the spark alive. The judgment to not just go in guns blazing and letting his impulsive nature take control of him shows just how much he's grown as a person, how much wiser he has become. He has fully accepted his title as a legend. This is a moment that for me will go down in history. It is arguably my favorite Star Wars moment ever, and I have no shame in saying that. No matter what you think of the overall way they handled Luke in this film, you can't deny that this is Luke Skywalker, walking out against all odds, facing down the First Order all by himself with a smile on his face. This is Luke Skywalker. And then we of course have Luke's death in front of the twin suns, which is also a gold moment. I honestly couldn't have imagined a more fitting send-off to this beloved character. This whole story started with Luke Skywalker staring off into the horizon as a young man with so many dreams, and it ends off with Luke Skywalker staring off into the horizon, a hero and a legend. Because yes, this may not be the end of the story as a whole, but it's the end of Luke's journey. This of course isn't his trilogy, so the last film had to focus on the newer characters, but I'm just glad that The Last Jedi gave us this perfect send-off to Luke Skywalker. The Force theme playing at full blast and watching Luke happy and fulfilled makes me really emotional. His story is one of my favorites in cinema, and I'm just so happy that it was great all the way throughout, both in the originals and The Last Jedi. Luke is fantastic in this movie, and his death is just perfect. A legendary moment in cinema. And of course, to end it all off, we have the ending scene with the little boy looking towards the sky, and this is a silver moment. The Goldman has a really good video on why this scene is so special, so I'd really recommend checking it out because it's worth the watch. Link is in the description. But this scene is just so inspiring and so filled with hope. It just nails down the idea that anyone can be a Jedi, even you and me who've both used a broom as a lightsaber before. It shows the true impact of Luke as a symbol of hope throughout the galaxy. And honestly, it's just one of my favorite ending scenes in any Star Wars movie. A great ending to a great movie. So what we're left with is a shit ton of bronze moments, a handful of silver moments, and 2 gold moments. Not bad for the most controversial film of all time. I can't explain to you just how much affection I have towards this movie, but hopefully this video has helped us understand each other a little better, because I do think The Last Jedi has a lot to offer the Star Wars franchise as a film. And beyond what I've already mentioned, I think the acting is possibly the best in the entire series. Mark Hamill, Adam Driver, Daisy Ridley, Oscar Isaac all provide solid to even great performances. The cinematography is also arguably the best out of any Star Wars movie. Shots like the ones on Crate, the lightspeed ramming, Luke's death scene, just the subtle hints we get throughout, all based on camera work, such as Luke not having footprints, it really makes you notice what kind of director Rian Johnson is. Regardless of your opinions of this movie specifically, if you still think Rian Johnson is overall a bad director, watch Knives Out. It's great fun and it's a great movie. Although people criticize the humor in this film, I think it sometimes works. Shots like C-3PO being told off for looking nervous, the subversion of a ship actually being an ironing board, Yoda trolling Luke, some of the jokes actually do land. It's not an unfunny film. And of course we have some wonderful characters. Luke, Kylo, Rey, and Poe are the standouts. The Last Jedi is not a perfect film, but it is a very underappreciated Star Wars film that has some unforgettable moments, and it deserves to be loved by more people. It adds a lot of new and interesting concepts to Star Wars, and I praise it for that. In my opinion, The Last Jedi is great. Anyways, those were my positive thoughts on The Last Jedi. If you agree, disagree, or have anything to add, then please do tell me down in the comments. For those of you who love the prequels, don't worry. I'll be making a video like this for Revenge of the Sith in the near future. I love all the Star Wars movies, not just the sequels, and I want to celebrate that. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, don't be afraid to like and subscribe for more content like this in the future. Thank you all so much for 700 subscribers. It's truly unreal to me. Anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe and peace out.